Oh, hello there. My name's Ben. Just been reading my science book. It brings back a lot of memories. A lot of interesting memories. It comes from a guy that thought science was kind of boring. Not really that fun. But I'll tell you, there's something about science that really caught my eye. And let me explain. So we got over here, I named him Fred. Fred is interesting. This was back in high school when I had to do anatomy. And Ben was not very good in anatomy, really any science. And I remember specifically, my teacher at the time, Mrs. Neer, came up to me and said, Ben, why can't you figure out the bones? And I remember specifically saying, well, I don't understand. And I remember her looking at me and going, Ben, they're all labeled out so you can read them. And I said, yes, that's true. But my one question is, why do I need to know this? Because I was ignorant back then, and well, most of you still probably think I am. So, I still could be that. But at the end of the day, one of my biggest experiences from this moment was my friend Joey, who since that day has called me Dermis, even though that does nothing to do with the bones, it goes along with skin, as my man Caleb would know. And for me, one of the biggest things that I learned from this experience was, you need to study in science. And as an educator, you need to make sure not only your students understanding that study is important, but you're having fun. And so to go back to that time when I wasn't understanding anatomy, I remember we did a lab where we got to basically build a whole skeleton. Of course, they used the tall, skinny guy in the class to model after the whole proportions of the person. And I remember going through each specific part of the body, and I was able to label them all, which was great. And one of the most embarrassing moments of that whole time was the fact that by the time I got done labeling them, I was done getting ready to take the exam that we had to take, and well, I basically flunked the exam. And the reason why I flunked the exam is that I had labeled a lot of the bones in the wrong spot. So the fibula was up there on the arm and vice versa. So as you can tell, I still had to work on some stuff. But moving on, we're gonna go, we talked about Ben in high school, and that's wonderful and all. We're gonna flash back though to when Ben originally learned about science and what intrigued him about possibly becoming a zoologist. Let me tell you, this is my friend Lion. And the one thing I've learned about lions is that they're a fierce animal. They're a fierce animal. And young Ben in second grade, we went on a field trip to the zoo. And I remember asking my mom on that field trip, I'm like, Mom, what's so amazing about animals? And my mom said, well, that God's created them equally in every different way. They're in some way, God has made them to look unique. They're equal in the fact that God loves them all. And I remember saying this, I want to be a zoologist. And well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a zoologist. I'm just a elementary teacher, hoping to be an elementary teacher because I still haven't finished yet. But really what I wanted to say with those two kind of experiences about science in my life is the fact is this. I had troubles in science. I had troubles in high school when it came to anatomy and physiology and chemistry. Oh man, chemistry, that was so hard for me. Part of the reason is I wasn't good at the ionic bonding and stuff like that. That caused a craziness in my head. And I would say this, that as you saw young Ben learned about animals and older Ben learned about anatomy, it all came down to this for me. And science is really one thing for me, and that is learning of what God created. And for me, science is one of those things where you can make it interesting or you can make it really boring. But the key is to have fun. The key is to have the enjoyment of the kids. And I'll tell you this, the one thing I've learned about science is you never know what might happen. what might not happen. And that is my science story.